For most of Earth's history, it has been significantly warmer than it is today. This was mainly due to the high levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Earth has also experienced times when temperatures fell and permanent ice deposits covered large amounts of the oceans and land masses. Throughout history, there have been at least 5 major glaciations. The Pleistocene era was the most recent glaciation from 2 million to 10,000 years ago. Even within this ice age, there were times when glaciers retreated and advanced. During the coldest times of this era, average global temperatures were 4 to 5 degrees colder than today. In ancient Greece, many people proposed humans could change the temperature and rainfall by chopping down trees, plowing fields, or irrigating deserts. Whether these ideas were accurate or not, the idea humans could influence the climate was deemed far-fetched for many more centuries. Fast forward a few years to the 19th century, where early experiments suggesting that human-produced carbon dioxide and other gases could collect in the atmosphere and insulate Earth were met with curiosity. By the 1920s, a French physicist by the name of Joseph Fourier proposed the greenhouse effect. Although accurate, the theory is considered to be an oversimplification by today's scientific standard. The greenhouse effect analogy stuck for 40 years until an Irish scientist, John Tidal, started exploring the gases involved in heat absorption. He demonstrated greenhouse gases acted as a sponge to the Earth and Sun's energy. In 1895, Swedish chemist Svante Arrhenius investigated cooling effects of decreased carbon dioxide, possibly explaining the ice ages. He then investigated warming effects of increased carbon dioxide and calculated that a double of carbon dioxide levels would increase the Earth's temperature by 5 degrees, an almost accurate calculation by modern standards. The then view of climate change was very contrary to today's beliefs. Upon the release of his calculations, Arrhenius said, "By the influence of the increasing percentage of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, we may hope to enjoy ages with more equable and better climates." In the 1930s, British Guy Stewart Callender noted regions had warmed since the Industrial Revolution. All the way into the mid-60s, he would argue that climate change is already underway. The attention he drew to the subject played a big part in garnering some of the first government-funded projects to monitor climate conditions and carbon dioxide levels. In 1958, Scripps Institution of Oceanography established a monitoring station in Hawaii. Geochemist Charles Keeling was instrumental in outlining a way to record carbon dioxide levels and in securing funding to the facility. The data observed revealed the Keeling curve, showing a steady rise of carbon dioxide levels. The dawn of advanced computer modeling in the 1960s began to predict outcomes from rising carbon dioxide levels made evident by the Keeling curve. In the 1970s, a different form of climate change became the focus of the media: climate cooling. The Earth did cool between 1940 and 1970 due to aerosol pollutants reflecting sunlight from the planet. This idea was forgotten shortly after the period ended. 1988 plays a critical turning point in the history of climate change, with the hottest summer on record and widespread drought and wildfires in the US. Also in this year, NASA scientist James Hansen delivered testimony and presented models to Congress assuring them of the reality of global warming. In 1989, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change was established under the United Nations to provide a scientific view of climate change and its political and economic impacts. This was a time when researchers dug into the possible ramifications, including heat waves, droughts, powerful hurricanes, glaciers melting, and sea levels rising. The Kyoto Protocol was the first global agreement to reduce greenhouse gases and was adopted in 1997. It called for the reduction of the emissions of 6 greenhouse gases in 41 countries. In 2001, George Bush announced he would not implement the Kyoto Protocol, as he worried of its damage to the US economy. Global warming became increasingly politicized, and in 2012, Donald Trump said the concept of global warming was created by and for the Chinese in order to make US manufacturing non-competitive. In 2005, the US signed the Paris Climate Agreement. 195 countries pledged to set targets for their own greenhouse gas cuts and to report their progress. In 2016, Donald Trump declared the US would withdraw from the Paris Treaty, saying he could not, in good conscience, support a deal that punishes the US. This same year, NASA and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration found Earth's surface temperature to be the warmest since modern recording began in 1880.